Hollywood is facing its final years, but nobody is talking about it. Government shutdowns, conspiracy theories, and even Twitch streamers with shock collars are everywhere in the news today. But what if I told you a report just came out that California has lost half, yes, half of its Tinseltown jobs in just the last 2 years? And what if that's just the beginning of a big end for showbiz they don't want you to know about? Hello, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome back to the Pro Channel. It is a pleasure, as always, to have you here with us. As you walk on in, consider clicking the like button and take your shoes off. Sit down for a spell. We're going to tell you why the spell is over for Hollywood. The celebrities have much to fear, and the end is near, and we're not being hyperbolic. Folks, drop a comment down below. Let us know what's the last movie you went to go see in theaters that you enjoyed. And here's what we have out of nofilmschool.com. Hollywood is dying. 42,000 jobs gone in just 2 years. Yes, this is breaking, ladies and gentlemen. And again, it's being lost in the shuffle. Joe Light has put this one out there. It says, if you work in entertainment, you probably heard some variation of this last year. Survive till 25. That was the motto that everybody was saying in, over there in Burbank on the Sunset Strip everywhere. Things have been bleak. In a recent article from the Wall Street Journal, the reporting goes as far as to call Los Angeles production prospects a disaster movie. The numbers are stark. According to the Bureau of Labor Statistics, around 100,000 people were employed in Los Angeles County's motion picture industry. Now, of course, you know that it goes far beyond just LA, but we're going to stick with LA. At the end of 2024, 2 years earlier, that figure stood at 142,000. Let me repeat it again. 100,000 in 2024. It was 142,000 in 2022. That's a loss of 42,000 jobs. Nearly a third of the workforce in just 24 months. And you say, well, Pro, wait a minute. Pro, you said half. Hang on. We're not done, not by a long shot. Wall Street Journal's report paints a now familiar picture. An Oscar-winning sound mixer who can't find a gig. An animator who worked on Pocahontas who's out of work. These are talented people having to recalibrate everything they know about Hollywood. Film LA, the official film office for the city and county, reported that on-location production was down 22% in the first quarter of 2025 compared to the same period last year. 1 year, 22% drop in production in California. Television production has been especially hard hit, and this is where we get to the 50%. The region reached a peak of 18,560 annual shoot days in 2021. By 2024, that number had plummeted to just 7,716. It's a 58.4% decline in 3 years. Now, here's what you need to know. How are we getting to the half number? Well, read this. The first quarter of 2025 looks even worse. Every major category of production, from television dramas to commercials, logged fewer shoot days compared to the year before. Ladies and gentlemen, we were already down by a third. They're saying it's worse 1 year later after that 2024. And we're finding out that there's a 58.4% decline in television production. Add it all up, and what do you get? You get that this thing's down by half. Now, it goes on to talk about what the cause is. It says that the WGA and SAG-AFTRA strikes, still have something to do with it. They talk about the fires that burned down an area the size of Paris inside of Los Angeles. And, only in America can you have an area the size of Paris burned down in Los Angeles, and still the governor is wanting to make a presidential run, and the mayor of LA has faced no consequences. And then they wonder how it is that they're in the position they are. California, it says, has also lost significant ground to competitors. Oddly said, the state now ranks 6th in the world for filming, behind Toronto, the UK, Vancouver, Central Europe, and Australia. Between 2020 and 2024, an estimated 71% of projects that failed to secure California's tax credits moved out of state. Now, also important to notice here, folks, look at the places that California is now behind. Toronto, the UK, Vancouver. These are such strange ways of classifying. 2 cities in Canada versus the entire country of the United Kingdom versus all of Central Europe. Listen, you know what they don't want to say? What they don't want to tell you is that California was falling behind badly to Georgia. Yeah. Georgia was eating California's lunch. Georgia had eclipsed it by leaps and bounds in terms of production. Everything in the United States was happening in Georgia, the Peach State. And guess what? They hate red states, and Georgia went red, and what happened instead of it continuing to grow? That's why they went to these places. That's why they went to Toronto, the UK, Vancouver, Central Europe, and Australia. Disney moved all their Marvel stuff. Star Wars has been in the UK forever, but Disney moved all their Marvel stuff suddenly, just after the election, moved all their Marvel stuff out of Atlanta, which go look at the population statistic for Atlanta and see what that did to people and who that harmed. But Disney moved all their productions out of Atlanta, Georgia, put all of them into the UK. Interesting, isn't it? Now, folks, I'm going to tell you something. When you lose basically 50% of your jobs in 2 years, you have a huge problem. And we don't know what the 2025 numbers are yet because 2025 is not over. And nobody's talking about this. Are you finding out about this for the very first time on this channel right now in this video? Are you? Nobody's talking about Hollywood in total collapse. How bad is it? Well, let's go look at the numbers. They have the box office numbers for this past weekend, and I got to show you. It's unbelievably bad. Unbelievably bad. All right, I'm going to show you something that is very interesting that you got to know you got to know what's going on to know this, and you're about to. Let's go through the top 5 for a minute, okay? The Conjuring Last Rites Halloween film, $4 million. That's not enough. I mean, that's not even moving popcorn. Gabby's Dollhouse, the movie, $5 million. That's basically a streaming movie that they threw into the theaters to see if it would make any cash, and guess what? It did not. The Smashing Machine from A24, also known as The Rock's Embarrassment, $6 million. And then the giant anti-FA movie. Say it over again, folks. The anti-FA movie. You'll figure out what that means. The anti-FA glorification movie, one battle after another, starring Leonardo DiCaprio. It's a lefty dream, baby. Warner Brothers has made $11 million off that. It's at a total gross of $42 million. Why am I going over this with you? What does this have to do with Hollywood jobs? Folks, I'm so glad you asked that question after I said the question. Anyway, Taylor Swift is at number 1. But look who the distributor is. AMC Theaters. It's not Warner Brothers. It's not Disney. It's not Sony Pictures. It's not Lionsgate. It's AMC. The theater chain literally looked at what was coming out this weekend and said, we're in trouble. We're in big trouble. And they're probably looking at the movies coming out for the next several years and saying, oh no, we're in trouble. So what do? Well, you get Taylor Swift to have a release party of her album, and then the theater itself is the distributor, and that led everything. It didn't just lead it by a little, it tripled the number 2 from Hollywood. In other words, all this other stuff down here that's making piddling pennies of money, Hollywood. And at the top, a theater chain desperate to survive. And, well, let me tell you this, too. They needed Taylor Swift's album to be better than it is. T-Swift was pulling, what? What was her last thing that she did with theaters? It pulled a lot more. $34 million. It keeps AMC, afloat for the weekend, but it's not great. It's not gravy either. But that's what's happening. That's how you're getting half the jobs gone in Hollywood. They're producing such terrible crapola that even the theaters now are distributing their own films, their own movies with T-Swift to try to stay alive. And folks, I'm going to tell you, the end is nigh for Hollywood. Really and truly. Let's go to Variety here. It's by Gene Maddow. It says Motion Picture Association blasts OpenAI over Sora 2 video copyright opt-outs. Have you seen the Sora 2 videos? They're photorealistic. All kinds of ethics questions. I get that, but I want to show you something here. The Motion Picture Association on Monday called on OpenAI to take immediate action to fix the copyright opt-out system on Sora 2. As knockoff videos proliferate online, the MPA issued its first comment on the situation since the release of the video AI model last week, which allows users to create clips using copyrighted characters and puts the onus on copyright holders to object. They're photorealistic. Oftentimes, they're better. People can make animated movies, animated shows now with Sora 2. With enough effort, you can do it. You can do it, especially if they'll remove that watermark, but there are ways around that too. It says, since Sora 2's release, videos that infringe our members' films, shows, and characters have proliferated in OpenAI's service and across social media. While OpenAI clarified it will soon offer rights holders more control over character generation, they must acknowledge it remains their responsibility, not rights holders, to prevent infringement on the Sora 2 service. OpenAI needs to take immediate, decisive action to address the issue Well-established copyright law safeguards the rights of creators and applies here. Goes on to talk about how Sora basically has pulled back now on the ability to use these trademark characters. On the other hand, you can find all kinds of videos featuring Stephen Hawking doing 1080s, in the X Games, or you can find videos of Albert Einstein or JFK and way more. Celebrities like Mr. Rogers and just all kinds. Robin Williams is on there quite a bit now. And folks, there are family members now of those celebrities saying, hey, please stop this. Please stop this. This is not what they wanted. And I don't know what the future is going to be, except that it's going to be entertainment on demand by people who know what they want to see, and it's generated. Either they generate it manually or they get somebody else to generate it. The future is not in Hollywood. And so when we look at Hollywood losing 42,000 jobs in just 2 years, right? 1/3 of all their jobs. And when we look at, hey, it's continued this year, it's likely at half, right? When we look at that, what do we see? Why would Hollywood be freaked out by AI? Well, ladies and gentlemen, remember that it's been about a decade of sequelitis. Because Hollywood cannot create original great content anymore, because they showed traditional narrative the door, because they decided they were going to go all in, gamble everything, every last penny they have on woketitis. What's happening to Hollywood is the last thing they have that keeps them alive, that makes them viable, are their characters, their IP. SpongeBob, Captain America, Superman, all that kind of stuff. And James Gunn is doing a darn good job of destroying that. But that's the last thing they have. They have these legacy characters, Donald Duck, Mickey Mouse, right? That's what the house is now built on. Them owning that is the last thing they have to show to keep those who want to make entertainment inside their attics, their basements, their bedrooms, wherever they might be. That's the last thing that Hollywood has to save themselves. So, of course, they're going to battle tooth and nail. And Sam Altman and ChatGPT, they thought that they could release this, and then Hollywood would be very excited because Hollywood would say, oh my gosh, we'll have the proliferation of our characters everywhere, and we'll get paid 30% or 40% of the ads that are generated on this platform. And oh my gosh, we're going to make oodles of money. But the calculation was wrong by Sam Altman and OpenAI, backed largely by Microsoft. The calculation was wrong, and the calculation is wrong is because they didn't consider, because they're not inside the industry, that Hollywood is at the precipice of death. And because Hollywood is at the precipice of death, the only thing they have left is gatekeeping the characters, because they can't make good movies anymore. So all they can do is peddle out the personalities that you have loved from decades and decades ago. Nostalgia bait, member berries, that's all they have to try to save themselves. Regardless of what happens, Hollywood itself is in deep, deep trouble. California at the edge of becoming Detroit. And folks, I think it's too late to change anything. Gavin Newsom, Karen Bass have sealed the fate. The negotiations of SAG-AFTRA, as we reported to you a couple of years ago, the negotiations where they failed to get safeguards on AI like they needed to and integrate Hollywood into it because there's no escaping it. You stop Sora, fine. You stop VO, fine. Guess what? China will release one and they don't give a flip about any of your copyright stuff. This is going to happen. I'm not telling you it's good or bad, but what I am telling you is when I look at the box office, I see bad. I see sad. I see a Hollywood that failed this summer. And I see a Hollywood that has decided they were going to become ideological at possibly the worst time they could have done so. And they've been doing so, and they refuse to change. And as a result, like the Luddites, they're going to fall on the sword of, what should we say, obstinate refusal in the face of change. All right, folks, that is the video for the day. Thank you for coming by. We've got more, by the way. 4:30, we're talking about CBS News. Oh, we told you it was going to happen, and it's happened. Barry Weiss taking over CBS News, and all those people who fought tooth and nail did everything they could to stop that Skydance CBS Paramount merger. They're going to be gone, and you and I know it. We're going to talk about it. CBS 60 Minutes getting the full makeover, and the drive-by journalists can't stand it. Check us out at 4:30 p.m. Eastern. Folks, like, share, subscribe, click it, stick it to the algorithms. It is the notification bell. Drop a comment down below. Let us know your thoughts. And until the next time, keep learning, keep growing. And as always, keep having fun.
Why can't I go around topless anymore?
Because it's not appropriate.
Kevin Apollo isn't appropriate?
Kevin Apollo's like a Greek god. And besides, he does kind of wear shirts. Sometimes.
I mean, that kind of explains it.
I mean, technically Apollo is a Roman god borrowed from the Greeks, which makes sense, because he's powerful and has great takes.
Look, if you love Athena that much, you can marry him.
Nope, but I do plan to check out Lauren and Apollo on Tuesdays and Fridays at 11 p.m. Eastern.
Wait, Lauren's there? This is another opportunity to see if we can get him to watch the Highlander movies.